Let's do it.
I never really found a good way to remember what I'd learned until I started using RemNote. RemNote turns your notes into flashcards and creates a practice schedule to fit your needs. RemNote recognizes your learning patterns and adjusts the flashcards to be either easier or harder based on how well you know them. You can take notes on anything, from quick practice problems to even writing your entire dissertation. Take literature notes with powerful backlinks. Make flashcards in any language, or learn a new one. Study images for your medical board exam. Or even just research your favorite dog breeds. Organize your thinking so that you can master your craft and grow your knowledge.
We live? Hey, we live? Can everyone hear me? Hey,
I can hear you.
yeah. Hey, in the chat, can you guys hear me?
Well, everyone's saying hi. It's nice to see everybody.
Yep. Hey, someone let us know in the chat if you can't hear us.
We got people from the Middle East, from Iraq,
Hello from Peru.
from
Yeah.
Asia.
Hello.
Nice to see everybody. Thanks for joining
Yes?
us today.
Okay. So Malte says, yes, you can hear me. All right, should I get started then?
Yeah, go for it.
All right. So my name is Mike. I'm here with the entire team. We got Martin, Moritz, and my brother Maddie. And we are super excited to start today. Just wanted to start off by saying thank you so much for taking the time out of the middle of your day, out of the middle of your week to join us on this huge occasion. We've been all working around the clock to make this happen. And by we, I don't mean us, I mean all of you guys. You guys have all been using RemNote around the clock, giving us amazing feedback, reporting bugs, and most importantly, just sharing RemNote with your friends and your family, and it really shows and it really helps a lot. So to start off, I wanted to talk a little bit about our background and a little bit about RemNote, and share a little bit of our vision before we move on. So when I first started talking to Martin and Moritz and Maddie, when the four of us first started putting our heads together, we instantly clicked. We shared the same interests, we shared the same ambition, but I'd say the most important thing is that we all shared the same beliefs and shared the same values. And everything that culminates into our core values is to empower the learner and to empower the individual thinker. And so it makes me really happy to see so many like-minded people, so many thinkers, all of you guys in our audience today. So just to give you a little background of our skill set, our experiences, because we come from a very diverse, the four of us, from diverse areas and walks of life. We are computer scientists, we're software engineers, we're designers, we're doctors, we're writers, we're filmmakers, we're music producers. There's a lot of different things that we all do. And so I think it shows in RemNote because RemNote is a unique tool. You know, it's not just a note-taking app. It's not just a flashcard app. We're striving to be a workspace for the learner and for thinking. And so it also reflects in all of you. This is a community with people from all walks of life, all different disciplines and backgrounds, but we all share the love of learning and the love of building knowledge. So kind of about our vision is that I see us all moving along a same path for knowledge building and knowledge growth. We started off RemNote really trying to perfect information collecting, note taking, using the RemNote Clipper, which I love, and then trying to integrate with other platforms to help us bring in knowledge from all different types of sources, like podcasts and articles and PDFs finally, which is really exciting. Moving on to the next step on our path, which we've also been building, knowledge management, organization, processing using backlinks, portals. On to the next step on our path, which is learning, studying, spaced repetition, deliberate routine practice. And then I see the next step in our journey as sharing our knowledge, working collaboratively. So I want to stress the power of personal knowledge management itself. We all have our private workspaces, but I also want you to get excited about what we're building next, which is also huge collaboration, especially not just intra knowledge base, but also inter knowledge base, connecting on a different level, and ultimately building towards a larger, more unified human brain, I guess. That's a collective brain of all of our thoughts and all of our knowledge. So that would be really exciting, and I'm really happy to be going on this journey with everybody here on the call today, and so many more people to join us. Really, really humbled that we have over 35,000 signups to RemNote, and that number is growing by the second, and it just keeps growing. So thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for being here. We have a lot to cover. Martin, do you want to talk about some cool features we have coming up?
Yeah. So we're going to continue it here with a demo of our newest feature released to all of you guys today, if you've already seen it, our beta graph view. So let me screen share here.
Yeah, this was teased in the trailer video if you guys didn't catch that.
It's been a long time.
Been a long time coming.
All right. Can everyone see this? Is this coming through, Maddie?
Yes, it is coming through.
All right. So we thought it would be fun to kind of build a graph on the fly here and build a graph that kind of is talking about our larger journey here as well. So we're going to sort of go through and map out some of the ideas and philosophies that have inspired RemNote and brought us all together. So I'm just going to pull up a new blank sort of workspace here by creating a new document. And let's get started. So first, I want to bring in RemNote itself. So when you're in this graph view, you can right-click anywhere in the background and run a search or create a new rem. So here I just ran a search for this within this account that I'm in, and I found an existing rem that I have called RemNote. If I alt-click on this node here, then I can expand it and see anything that's linked to RemNote in my account. So for example, here I have it linked to knowledge base, to rem, and a few sort of stubs that are just in this test account here. So maybe let's collapse that back down. So let's pretend that we're sort of in a brainstorming session and we're just trying to capture down some thoughts about, again, sort of what's inspired RemNote. So maybe first we're going to think about the spaced repetition side. So before any of us were using RemNote, everyone on the team was using Anki, right? It's kind of grandfather of the industry.
At least Mike and I.
Yeah. So here I've created a new rem for Anki and have pulled that in here. And now I want to start connecting my ideas, because that's kind of one of the core activities that you do within RemNote. So here I'm just going to hold Control and draw an arrow between RemNote to Anki. And I'll say that RemNote was inspired by Anki. And we'll add a few more edges of what RemNote has been inspired by as well as we keep going here. So let's see. So maybe I'm thinking more about Anki and what spaced repetition is. So maybe I can pull in spaced repetition itself here. I can see from this white border that it has some unexplored neighbors. So I'm going to just click on this and expand these neighbors. Uh-oh. I've accidentally thrown this node. Actually, let me flip this. Let me clean this up a bit really fast. So let me pull this back together. And the Anki and space repetition. Okay, so now I'm going to expand the space repetition node we can see that we have a few things connected to it in this knowledge base. I'll temporarily turn off the edge text so we can see it a bit cleaner. I have kind of the decay rates for spaced repetition. I'm reminded of Pyotr Wozniak, who was one of the people who built a tool called SuperMemo. So that seems like maybe an interesting connection that we can pull in here right now. So let me search for SuperMemo. Immediately we can see an edge between Pyotr Wozniak and SuperMemo. And if we turn on edge text again, we can see that SuperMemo was actually built by Pyotr Wozniak. So maybe let me collapse down space repetition here. Let's bring Pyotr Wozniak back in. And now capture the idea that Anki was inspired by SuperMemo. And that both of these tools are implementing spaced repetition. Let's see, so I'm looking at the chat. When is this available for use? So this is released today. This is kind of the new 1.2 beta release. It is not in the end state that we want it to be yet, but we're kind of releasing it now to get all of your feedback, see what workflows that you're using it in, and see what direction you want us to take this in. Okay, so we have this basic graph here, and something that's kind of important to point out is that none of this is using custom features. This is just a visualization. Underneath, this is all just using the same RemNote core that's powering the rest of your knowledge base. For example, if I jump into Anki here, we can see that I added two edges in the graph. But in my notes, they're just two descriptors, right? So here we can see we have a descriptor that Anki was inspired by SuperMemo, and Anki is implementing spaced repetition. So we're not doing anything kind of custom, new, and fancy here. Everything gets sort of tightly integrated together. So I mean, now we could just like keep on going with this exploration for really however long we want. So maybe we could then think about, maybe now I'm thinking about Pyotr Wozniak. I could expand this node to see what else I know about him. We can see that he's a type of researcher. This pink node here represents that Pyotr Wozniak is tagged as a researcher. We can see that he has a few research interests. He's interested in sleep. He's interested in incremental reading, in spaced repetition. And we can also see that he's connected to this other node that I have here, which seems to be a paper that he's an author of that I had in this account. I'm kind of curious. Maybe let's expand this and see what was in this document here. So we can see that this is a research paper. It's a type of article. And it has a lot of kind of these principles in it, such as don't learn if you do not understand, avoid sets and lists, optimize your wording, and all these great tricks and tricks that we all practice when building spaced repetition flashcards. Yeah, Kartik. So any descriptor is turned into an edge, just using the kind of text of the descriptor. Yep, it's basically a concept and mind mapping feature exactly. Okay, so maybe let's just do a little bit more in this view here. We can maybe add some more ideas. So another inspiration behind RemNote is the semantic graph literature. So this is more of a kind of computer science concept, but the principles are pretty broad and they're baked pretty deeply into RemNote. So we can mark down again that RemNote has another inspiration. It was inspired by the semantic graph. So an example of where this comes into play is that within semantic graphs, you have entities, and entities can have types. And maybe I'll actually just go and take this node and move it underneath semantic graph just to keep myself organized, like so. Okay, and well, how does this connect to RemNote? Well, in RemNote, we have the templating feature. So if I add that here, maybe I'll run a hierarchical search. So underneath RemNote, we have templates. And now I'll make sure that these are connected. And the template feature in RemNote is, again, inspired by this idea in the semantic graph literature that entities can have types, and then different types of entities can have different things known about them. So, for example, when we were looking at Pyotr Wozniak up above, we saw that he's a person who is tagged as a researcher. And here we know at least two things about him, his research interests and what he's focused on. How do you access the view, Don? So yeah, so there's a few ways to access it. Right now I'm showing off the local graph view. So this is if you're looking at a single document and you're trying to organize your thoughts there. You can simply click the ... menu in the top right of the document and click View Graph. And there's two more kinds of views that we'll get to as well. Yes, this is getting nerdy. Okay. So I think that's kind of a sufficient overview of this sort of local mind mapping feature. Maybe we can go look at the second type of graph, which is a search graph. So I'll create a new document here and create a search portal for it. And maybe I just want to go and visualize anything in my knowledge base about spaced repetition and see how they're connected to each other. Maybe I'll just say spaced or I'll say spaced repetition. Now to the left of this search portal, I can click the ... menu and again click Open Graph View. And this will create a graph that only contains search results for this query. So here we can see that there's maybe not too many of them, but we do have a few clusters. So we have things that are connected to spaced repetition, such as after generating your flashcards from RemNote will schedule this for you. And spaced repetition lets you create your optimal flashcard practice schedule. We can also see that we have a few other ideas which are sort of orphaned here. So it seems like we actually have spaced repetition duplicated in this account. So maybe that's not ideal, and we could realize this and go merge these. Or maybe we could just find other connections between the ideas that I've searched for. Is there a way to zoom in easily using a touch mouse? So right now I'm using an external mouse and using the wheel. On a sort of trackpad mouse, you can do 2 fingers probably and zoom up and down. And if that doesn't work for you, then we are also considering adding kind of just like plus and minus buttons to the control panel here. All right, and then the final graph view that we're exploring here is a global graph. So right now this is slightly hidden. It's in your settings and then account and then graph view. And this displays a high-level overview of everything in your account. So this test account here is pretty sparse, but we can already see a few connections between ideas. We can see that here we have one type of paper in this account, which is this paper we were looking at before, I think. And we also have an article, or I think this is actually what we were looking at before. We have a little cluster here around this machine learning concept called a support vector machine. And overall, this just lets me identify and zoom in on clusters in my knowledge base. Right now, we're looking at the hierarchy preset. So these blue dots are top level REM that I have, and these gray dots are documents, and it's just displaying hierarchical connections between them. And we can also look at a few other presets or just customize entirely what you're looking at. So maybe we could view the tag preset. Here, everything in pink is a tag. So we can see that this test account has a few different types of sorting algorithms, selection sort, merge sort, insertion sort, so on. I see we have another little professor cluster here. And then maybe finally we can look at the references cluster. So this is a pretty sparse graph. As your knowledge base grows, you'll definitely get more kind of clustered graphs here. Let me see if I can pull that up really fast. let's see. This will probably take a second. But yeah, so maybe we can go through these controls quickly. So you have a pretty high level customization within this graph. So right now we're only displaying top level rem. But if I wanted to, I could also include documents. You can see them pop in gray. Concepts anywhere in my knowledge base. So these are the sort of yellowish dots. For example, we can see that Spanish has quite a big cluster of concepts because these are all the flashcards that we have for Spanish words here. We have headers, and it seems like we have a lot of those within these sort of notes that I had here. And then if you don't really like how things are laid out, then you can play with including and excluding either leaves. So leaves are nodes that are only connected to a single other node. So right here, all these concepts, they're kind of on the edge, right? And maybe they're cluttering up your knowledge graph and you don't really want to see them. I can just get rid of these to hide them. Or maybe I actually do want to see orphans in my graph. These are nodes that aren't connected to anything else. I can add these, they'll all appear here. And now I can start to draw connections between things that are not currently connected to anything else. Again, just helping to really link up your knowledge base. And you can also include more types of references. So here I enabled more reference links, which will allow us to visualize this as a denser graph. We can add tags. We can render the edge text as we were looking at before. So for example, we can see that here I have some sort of author edge. And this is actually the same thing we were looking at before, where it's saying that Piotr Wozniak was the author of this article. And you can also play with the forces. So right now we have a few ideas in this graph. If I want to bring things closer together, I can bring up the edge force, and this should sort of grab each cluster and draw it closed. If I want to increase hierarchical force, then I can do so as well. This will sort of find trees within your knowledge base and force them vertical. So here we can see, or maybe let's look at this one here. So here we see that we have a tree coming out of classes, and that's corresponding to this tree here. This is a real sort of hierarchy that exists in my knowledge base. And because we turn on that hierarchical force, it started rendering it as a tree there as well. So finally, we can also just pull things closer to the center and sort of dampen all of the forces in the graph to make it smoother. Yeah. All right, let's see. Any other questions from the chat? Let's see. Can duplicated titles be merged using the graph? Not yet, but we definitely want to add more interactions here. For example, maybe holding a keyboard shortcut or a hotkey and being able to merge nodes, as you said, or draw a tag edge or hierarchy edge. What else? Yeah, okay. I think that's it. So that's the kind of overview of the new graph feature that we have. Definitely excited to hear all of your feedback and thoughts as you guys play around with it.
Yeah. There was one question I saw in the chat, Martin, if you could answer. Is the graph going to be restricted to Pro, or is this for all users?
This will probably be a Pro feature now, yeah.
Okay.
Really cool, man. Thank you so much for going over that.
No, it's a really cool feature. I think it just provides a whole another layer of complexity to the way that we think, and I like how it integrates so well with even your documents too. So it's just a whole other way you can learn, connect your ideas together at a very visual level. So that's going to be pretty huge for us.
And we're going to constantly iterate on it too.
Of course, yeah. That's just
version 1 right now.
That's version 1. We're gonna improve on it, of course, over time.
All right.
Yeah. Also, thanks from my side. Also, guys and audience, one thing that would be also cool at some more distant state would be to have like a AR graph view. For example, maybe the Iron Man scenes of I'm not actually sure what's Iron Man's name. but him like playing
Tony
with his
Stark,
3D
man.
models in front of him. And this
Oh,
could be like your knowledge graph. So I think that would be pretty nice.
Yeah,
Definitely.
coming
Definitely.
down
Give
the
us a
line.
decade or two for that. Yeah.
I think that's even possible today. So yeah, we should maybe be a bit more optimistic.
Yeah, cool.
You want to take over, Moritz?
Yeah, so Moritz, why don't you go
Sure.
ahead and he's going to give us a little run through his knowledge base here.
Yeah, so I will share my screen now. And yeah, what I wanted to share is like a small practical walkthrough of me summarizing and converting my previous notes from other apps into RemNote, and what's the workflow like of this process. And can you see my screen actually now?
Yeah, we can see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Nice. Awesome. Then, yeah, let's take this example, this book, Scale, the Universal Laws of Growth, Innovation, Sustainability, and the Pace of Life, and so on. And it's a book by Jeffrey West. And it's a book about complexity theory. And I already started. I also marked this as 50% sort of integrated. This is just like a small note to myself that I went through like half of this document already. And I can also show you the actual mind map, which before was a mind map. What's like the original form and how it looked like before I transitioned it into RemNote. And I think now you can see that because I'm using another application. But let me just briefly switch the presentation to my whole screen. So this does not make a difference. Cool. So now you see the mind map. This is a mind mapping app, but here, like it's a very static visual. So here I can connect ideas to other mind maps I did in the past, or I have in my like library of hundreds of mind maps. I don't have so many, but for example, if I had, and here you see I also did connections between concepts, but these are only like mind map level connections. So let's switch to the better version, how to grow and build a knowledge base. And when we look at this document, I already, you see some portals, and you already also see some like Rem references. And I came up like briefly, I noted down these three steps I do and I found useful. So the first thing is just copy pasting the whole like prior set of notes, like the whole summary. And then, yeah, the next thing is like creating some headings. So creating some structure. And here you see, I, for example, make this like a H1. And I also, yeah, basically refine the wording a bit to make it more generalizable. Because in the mind map, it only was, yeah, about cities and scaling laws and so on. And here I can already put it into context of other elements I learned. And also this is just generally interesting to maybe understand cities and organisms. So I also recommend the book. So as I said, the first step is like copy pasting, then creating structure, like just headings and just having like some more structure to work with. And the third step is this integration, where you start using references and creating stubs out of elements you want to build a small, yeah, basically graph out of in the future. And the third step is yeah, ramifying, I sometimes call it, or basically implementing the function of remembering something. And here, for example, I think there's a flashcard. You see the preview here. It's actually slightly scrollable. And yeah, that's when I came to the point of cities, and there's an interesting analogy of temperature and cities. So this is maybe just interesting to just explain. So there's this analogy or this the scaling law of socioeconomic scaling. So in the city, the scaling is superlinear, which means it does not scale like a simple vertical line or diagonal line, but it scales above this line. So it scales with the scaling parameter 1.15 or 15%. So, which means that if you double the city, there will be not the same amount of socioeconomic quantities like people building companies, people buying something, people laughing, running around in the streets, just going faster. And these metrics decrease superlinear with the doubling of size. And so the author made this analogy with collisions of molecules. And when I would have more of a knowledge base about molecules, I could also, maybe I can just do that right now, create a stub here. And yeah, this is like the third step of ramifying sort of the document. And the last thing I want to show is moving elements into different parts of your knowledge base, because I see, or for myself, those documents are only the origin of the pieces of knowledge in your knowledge base, and then I always try to sort of create an actual hierarchy, or at least like a loose hierarchy of some hubs where I can move the knowledge of the summaries, which I've internalized to some aspect, to the actual hierarchy. And here, for example, I created this top level rem of Dunbar's number, which is 150. So this is the number of human connections someone can manage, like on a regular basis. It's a bit limited by the brain size. Some people hypothesize. And then I always know, for example, when I go here, that this is from the book because it's referenced in this search portal. So this is a great way, because then I can, when I read somewhere else about the Dunbar's number, I can just move it here, and I will still have this portal here, or this document reference, and I will be able to hover over it and say, okay, I remember this is from this document, but I still will be able to, for example, print this or use this in some other way, maybe to write a book about the Dunbar's number. And yeah, that's just the workflow I wanted to show. And
awesome, man.
Yeah, looking, if anybody has some questions about this workflow, happy to answer questions about parts of it.
Yeah, feel free to throw them in the chat if anyone has any questions there. That was a super cool workflow.
Yeah.
I did see someone else said that it's getting really nerdy
Thanks.
again.
We have no nerd threshold. Let's move on to
Yeah, we can move on. I'm going to talk a little bit about pricing, just because a lot of people have been pretty interested in just kind of seeing where the pricing model fits into everything. So as you guys know, we launched our pricing model last week. Thank you to everyone so much who's already contributed or bought a lifelong or pro subscription. We really appreciate it. And we've been planning to do this for a long time, and it finally seemed appropriate, especially with the launch on Product Hunt, that we wanted to start. But we also do want to mention to all our users, as we've mentioned in FAQ from the very beginning, that we'll always have a very powerful and feature-rich free plan available to everybody. And A lot of people have also wondered if any of the new features that we create are going to be only limited to Pro, and that is absolutely not true. We're always going to be planning on adding more features to the free, and especially fixing bugs and issues that come up. Thank you again to everyone who's been reporting the issues. We're doing our best to work through them. So on the screen here, I'm sure you guys might have seen this page already, but here are 3 pricing options. We have a free version, the Pro for $6 a month right now, and the lifelong for $300 a one-time payment. And these are lifetime for early bird pricing. So if you do adopt early, you'll have these prices for the long run. And if you scroll down a little bit,
Go closer here, Mike.
if you scroll down a bit, we can kind of see the feature breakdown. How the Pro has, and for any users who adopted with us early on, you'll have grandfathered access, which means that any of the features before the latest update will be automatically applied to your account. That's our way of showing appreciation to any of our early adopters in the beta community. So thank you so much, guys. And there has been some questions about whether or not what the difference is between the Pro and the lifelong learner plans are, and which option is better for me as a student or as a researcher, or just in the long run. And so the lifelong learning plan for the $300 one-time payment, some people have been wondering if RemNote updates, we'll have to spend more money to upgrade again. And from the team at this point, we don't anticipate that we'll be releasing a version 2 or 3 anytime soon. Your money will definitely be well spent in regards to the Pro version versus the lifelong learning. We want to make it affordable to everybody. We want to make you feel like it's worth the investment, because we feel like it is, and we're going to be continuing to work on RemNote for a very long time. So this is actually going to be the cheapest option in the long run, and it's going to give you access to the most features, especially the lifetime desktop Pro access. As for when the early bird pricing is going to go down, I've gotten that question, excuse me, a couple times. We're not completely sure yet, but that's going to be something that we're kind of toggle around with in the future. But for now, this is going to be the early bird pricing model that we're introducing for temporarily. And we do understand that there are a lot of students and users who come from other countries, or are financially not able to pay the $6 a month, and we do have a kind of like a scholarship application that you can fill out, and we'll be answering those emails on a personal inquiry basis. So definitely send us an email or apply for the scholarship if that's going to be something that you're interested in. If there are any other questions regarding the pricing, the forum is going to be a spot where I'm going to be uploading a more complete document, kind of overlaying all that detail. And with that, I want to hand it back to Martin a little bit to talk a little bit about just kind of the future, some of the tentative future roadmap stuff that we're maybe they're working on in the back right now.
Yeah, I also see a few questions from the chat that we can answer immediately here as well. So yep, Pro will include mobile iOS. The free version will include mobile iOS. We're going to try to get that available to everybody. Yep, so the Pro version can sync knowledge bases from the desktop app, any synced knowledge base. With regards to the early bird pricing, yes, that is lifetime pricing. So if you subscribe now, you'll be kind of locked into that lower price, or whatever the lowest price is, either this or if we decrease in the future. Okay, any other? Okay. If we miss any questions, we'll do more Q&A at the end as well. Yeah, so in terms of next steps, we are kind of currently focusing on finishing up this 1.2 release. That'll take another few weeks because we want to make sure that we get everything pretty polished. We've definitely been expanding a lot recently with the PDF annotation, the aliases, the graph view, and we're going to take a little bit of time to really go through and add those extra layers of polish that are so important in a thinking tool. Longer term, I think I think the community kind of knows what we're going towards, to be honest. In that we're longer term over the following few months, we're working on things like the iOS app, like more collaboration, other views, lots of smaller pieces of polish that are frequently requested, such as kind of hiding all, showing one from your cards, typing in your answers for single folders, being able to like copy raw text from PDFs, all these little sort of polish features that can become really powerful in certain workflows. So yeah, so I would say that the next kind of few months at least are going to be getting those apps out, collaboration views, and then just seeing a lot of polish continuing to develop across the tool. Yeah. Anything else to add there, guys?
I see a couple of questions from the chat asking if all the upgrades or all the new features are going to require you to upgrade. And do you want to answer that one, Martin? Are all the new features going to be only for the Pro?
No. So for as mentioned, for example, the iOS app will be available to everyone. Some form of collaboration will definitely be available to everyone. What else did I mention? The hide all show one will be available for closes for everyone, because that's a feature that's accessible to everyone. We're really not interested in going out of our way to restrict you guys from using features. We just need some things to be on the Pro plan. Because we're trying to build kind of a long-term sustainable business here.
All right.
Yeah, I added just one point to the agenda. I'm not sure if you saw. Should we just touch on that?
Yeah, do you want to talk about that, Mike?
Guys? Yeah, so I added this point, and maybe we can just chat about that as a community, the value of science and our contribution to it. And for me, it's a big motivating factor that we are actually creating a tool that helps students and researchers, which then in turn advance science or scientific achievement of humanity. And yeah, because that's a pretty big motivating factor when I see the positive feedback and that the whole community is basically learning more effectively, and it's also like enjoying the product, but also contributing to humanity and maybe creating cool products as a software engineer, or writing a paper with the help of RemNote, with the help of better and internalized and a bigger knowledge base and an internalized knowledge base. And yeah, maybe you guys also wanted to share thoughts on this aspect.
Yeah, keep an eye on the chat if anyone wants to share, but I love the idea. Whenever you log into your RemNote to explore all your knowledge, and whenever you want to work on a project or put out a piece of content or writing or project or anything like that, you're not just diving into your own knowledge, you're also diving into the collective knowledge of all your peers. And eventually it'd be really cool if we all, whenever we log into our own RemNote, we can see all of each other's thoughts and perspectives and how we come to those perspectives. Because everyone, given a certain amount of information, we all perceive it differently. And we've all been, molded by certain aspects of our lives to perceive information differently. So it's always really cool to see how people think.
Yeah, definitely agree. I think to build upon that a little bit, what we want to do eventually is have knowledge bases that you can kind of view at each other and see snippets of the way that people think and really the way that people connect ideas together. Because, as students, we all learn the same information, but the way that we get there is really different. And whenever you look at something through a different lens, it helps you, come to a better understanding for yourself. So that's kind of really what we want to do with RemNote, is just allow people to learn in a certain way, but also learn from each other in how they got to that place. I can't wait for that day to come.
Jay, teach in the chat. You can turn it into a knowledge social network.
That's a pretty cool idea.
Yeah, I also like Yash Takar's comment that he said, and also an AI-based flashcard creator would be a good idea, where you put the context of a flashcard and AI will create random flashcards. Yeah, I'm not sure like of the second part, but I think which is technologically possible would be that we have a machine learning algorithm that predicts how a user, or we might have at some point, or that it might be possible that we could say, hey, you might create this flashcard out of this set of ramps. But yeah, it's not sure how helpful this would be, and but it would be totally interesting.
All right. Do we want to start wrapping up with some Q&A, Martin?
Yeah, I think that Maddie and I have both been collecting a list of questions that we've seen in the chat here. Maybe we can go through these quickly. So maybe I'll take the first few and then we can bounce around.
Sure. Yeah, a lot of them have been answered already too, but we'll just quickly go over them again because some of them are pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's see. There's a question about creating a deep dive course on RemNote. We've definitely been trying to do that a little bit with our tutorials, but we would love to see more kind of people's viewpoints on here, because we know that everyone has kind of their own unique take on taking notes, and we're just trying to help the best ideas kind of propagate to the surface here. So if people are interested in doing that, that'd be awesome. There were some comments about kind of editing on the mobile app, that experience. And yep, that's definitely something that we are working on polishing. As mentioned, the the mobile iOS app will be available to everyone. Let's see. Also, as mentioned, the early bird pricing is locked in for a lifetime, whatever the lowest price is. Okay, so this next question is kind of interesting. What do I do if I fall behind on my cards? In some sense, I personally view this as a question that the community is not converged on an answer to. And I think that RemNote will hopefully play a role in helping the kind of community kind of move forward here in the future. So there's at least a few aspects to this. The first aspect is figuring out the most efficient way for you to practice, right? So if you just need to be practicing less cards overall, then it's less likely that you'll fall behind on your cards. But let's say that at some point it's inevitable that you do fall behind. So then we have that question of what to do. Right now, I think that most tools don't really help guide you enough through that process. So one step that you might take when you reach that point could be to either decide that you're going to stop practicing this information. For example, we get a number of requests to be able to turn off an entire document from your queue. And that is something that we're working on, but in some sense, that's a patch, I think, on the underlying problem here. Another solution could be that the tool helps to connect you to your original source or to other people also learning about this concept and find better ways to represent that information for yourself. At least personally, I often find that when I'm failing to remember a card, it's because I didn't internalize it properly initially, right? So maybe someone else has devised a really clever mnemonic or way of thinking about this. I guess in summary, I don't really know what the answer is yet, and I don't think that anyone does. Like one approach is definitely turn it off. What do you guys do?
Well, for me, since I'm in medical school and I make a pretty absurd amount of flashcards on a daily basis, and my queue, is sometimes up in the 6,000 range. So there's absolutely no way I'm going to get through all of them in time. But the thing is, when you're taking a lot of classes, what I like to do is I pretty much only study my flashcard queue from specific documents at a time. Much more manageable to get through 200 cards than it is to get through 5,000. So maybe it's not even about getting through all of your queue. It's just about getting through the queue that matters in the moment. And then by going through those queue, for me, it, that helps the learning process of, because all my ideas are interconnected with each other. So learning those 200 flashcards actually helps me master the material of all the low level ones that I'm not actually looking at. So I think just breaking it down into smaller chunks and compartmentalizing things is helped me move through my queue a little bit better. But yeah, if you fall behind, it does get daunting to just see that number keep going up every day, and I definitely feel that.
Yeah, I totally agree with you there too. I found this interesting though. We recently put a poll out on the RemNote Twitter asking you guys where you like to study from, global queue, folder queue, or document queues. And it looks like it's a pretty even split. It's 30% pretty much along all three areas. So I thought it was interesting. Yeah, but
Okay.
I definitely like tackling the document queue because it's just more focused that way. And then one thing I noticed is that if you have a lot of flashcards, maybe it's time to consolidate some. Maybe some of your flashcards are outdated. Maybe some of your flashcards are not, you know, up to par. And so every now and then, just go through flashcards and clean it up, and
Yeah,
hopefully you can reduce the number.
that's true. And we have, built in a pretty powerful edit later feature that even lets you tag specific cards that are not good, that are bad. So, making flashcards is a very iterative process. And just because you make one flashcard doesn't mean it's going to be the best one. You can always improve upon them to, like Mike said, make them better and make them better for your learning too. So,
Next question, Martin.
Um,
oh, the next one's a
let's
pretty good
see.
one. This is not really a question, but someone said, I would love the opportunity to help with UI UX if I got the opportunity to work with RemNote.
And it kind of goes hand in hand with are we taking investments, which multiple people have asked.
I guess I have some thoughts here. So first of all, we've tried to put in a fair amount of work to making RemNote as customizable as possible. And we have a few awesome people in the community who have really leveraged this. So one thing that you can do is use kind of custom CSS, which is a way to basically style your notes in your own way. That requires a bit of technical knowledge, but there's also people who are kind of building custom CSS for you and then sharing that with the public. For example, a really awesome project that a member of our community, Hannes Frank, is working on is the RemNote library, which contains a lot of custom CSS snippets. And I'll link it in the chat here if you guys want to check it out. So that's one way to customize it for yourself. We also kind of have our API, which allows you to connect other services to RemNote, and our front-end plugin system, which allows you to build new features directly into your to the front end. These are all somewhat technical, of course, but we're trying to help the community grow to help each other so we can spread around kind of these improvements for everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely check out that library. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Will real-time collab be available?
Yeah, I think we touched on this earlier, and that was definitely something on the roadmap that we hope to do in the future.
Yep.
Same thing with the next question. When can we expect an iOS app? That is currently in the works. Hope to come soon.
Should I choose? Any thoughts about this one?
Let's see. So next question is, can we have we considered integrating Latex, organic chemistry, structured drawing tool into RemNote? It's not something that we've put a huge amount of thought into on the team. One thing that we have thought about a little bit more is kind of just a first-class drawing feature. And that's the drawing is something that's slightly more general, and that's something we'd probably prioritize, just to be honest. However, this kind of the tech organic chemistry drawing tool is something that sounds like a perfect fit for a front-end plugin. Then you can imagine someone just creating this feature which sort of just embeds another site that allows you to draw into it there and then pull that directly into your RemNote knowledge base. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so then, sorry, did you have something there, Maddie?
Oh no, I just people have been asking about the handwriting feature for a while, and especially now that we have the PDF support too, I think that just would change. That would pretty much turn RemNote into like a combination of like GoodNotes and Notability too from on the iOS with or OneNote. In addition to what we already have, that'd be something to look up for in the future.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So this next question here is asking about a feature to pull in images from the web, similar to Quizlet. So this isn't something that we support as a first-class feature right now, but someone in the community has built a plugin in it. This is in the plugin page in your settings. If you enable this plugin, you can simply search for any image, first you can just press a keyboard shortcut, which opens a pop-up directly within RemNote, search for an image, which searches Google, and then automatically get that image pasted in to your notes. So that's a similar workflow, at least. Let's see.
I'm trying to figure out why we're considering this question about Moritz using a Dell XPS. But now I know why, because I used to have a Dell XPS, and the camera on that laptop is right above the keyboard, so it shoots it shoots straight up at your face from bottom up.
Considering that.
Any more questions in the chat here?
So actually, another thing that I realized I didn't show in the period where I was talking about the graph is an example of what a more dense knowledge base looks like. So maybe I can screen share really quickly. Let's see. Okay, so can you all see this here? Does this show up in the call?
Yes.
Okay, great.
It's a lot of.
So this one is my graph. I'm not going to zoom in because honestly, this feels very much like looking at my brain. So I don't want to show the text. But you can imagine what these kind of big clusters are. Like the one in the center is probably RemNote itself. I think this one on the left here is kind of papers. This one down here might be some other, I don't know, maybe some tools for thought concepts or something. But yeah, this is just sort of a example of a more dense knowledge network than I had a chance to show before.
This is your brain, pretty much right here.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe one. That's also an interesting point of discussion where I reflected on it today. Like these things are so weirdly beautiful to look at. And I think it's also because it's like some like emergent process. For example, when you look at the swarm of birds outside, it has like a similar effect on you. I feel like. Do you guys share this pleasure of looking at the graphs?
Yeah, I think a significant part of the global graph, at least, is just the joy of seeing it grow,
Yeah.
the joy of like reflecting on it. Yeah.
Maybe we can do like a compare like who has the most beautiful graph contest at some point. And merch also would be really nice.
Yeah, that'd be
Just
fun.
saw that in the chat.
Did we already answer Jay Teach's question about will there be graph export functionality?
So with regards to graph export, well, at some level, you can, like, the underlying representation for the graph is simply the same representation as the rest of your notes, right? It's just your bullet point rem and the references between them. You could imagine a more explicit export to some other mind mapping tools, and that's definitely something that we could consider in the future. we also, I mean, already provide raw data exports, so that's something someone else can build if they want it. We would definitely need to hear like a pretty compelling use case for that before we invested serious time in it, though. But yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I think. What do you guys think? Time to wrap it up.
Yeah. So we're gonna go ahead and take down all the other any more questions, and we're gonna try to answer them on our community forum.
Mm-hmm.
But I just want to take the time to thank you, everyone, again for being here, and definitely continue the conversation if you have time today on Product Hunt.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna leave all the links for you guys, and yeah. Anything else, Martin?
No, thanks everyone for coming.
Cool. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah.
We'll be hanging out on Product Hunt. See you guys later.
All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Take it easy,
See
guys.
everyone.
Bye.
Have a nice day.